Shabbat Sholom, everyone. I would say it's great to see you, but I can't see you. But you can see us, and it's a pleasure to be with Cantor Cohen this evening. I am coming to you from my parents' guest bedroom, not in the house I grew up in, but around the corner from the house I grew up in Foster City, California, which is not too far from where Cantor Cohen grew up, down a little bit down the peninsula, Redwood City, right?
Sunnyvale,
Sunnyvale.
Tropical and Palo Alto, the whole
Yes, yeah.
general area.
I think I went to a BBOO dance or two down there. But we are here with all of you for Shabbos, and we're going to begin.
Good to be here. From the top. The high part.
It was beautiful. It's a nigun called "Into the West." You said, yeah.
That's right.
It's got a
Yeah,
little bit of a out on the trail kind of feel to it. I like that.
exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of the West, so we drove down from Vancouver on Wednesday, dropped our children off at the URJ Camp Kalsman, and then continued along the coast, went to the Oregon coast and all the way into California. And I was thinking about it sort of as a reverse of the journey that I took to come to Canada 8 years ago, though we flew that a journey up the coast and then going down the coast. And there's a connection with this week's Parsha, Matot Maseh, because in this Parsha, we have the recalling of all of the stops, all the places along the way that the Israelites stopped as they came to this moment of essentially when they're about to enter into the promised land. Moses is going to go on in the next book for about 35 chapters, but they're going to get in eventually after he finishes his long speech. And in some ways, it's playing your life back on rewind and how you got from one place to the next. And we so much focus, of course, on the destination, but we know so much that life is learned in the journey. And as I was going down the coast, I was thinking about how far I've come, not just distance-wise, but in my life and in all of our lives, to where we are today, and all the things and all the places, and just like the Israelites, the stops along the way, the good ones and the not so good ones, the joys and oys that make us who we are. And we're a product of those things, just as the Israelites were a product of their journey in the wilderness, Bamidbar, in the desert, and the challenges that they faced to arrive and to be the people that they were at the moment they crossed the sea. We've all been through our wilderness. We've been all along our journeys. We're still on them, but we arrive at this moment on this Shabbos. We are who we are as a product of the places we have been and the people that have been traveling with us. And I think that if we are true with ourselves, we can celebrate that as blessing. So let's continue. We're going to start on page 130. If you want to follow along, we're not able to put up the prayers today from our various remote locations online, but you can follow along either in a Siddur if you have one at home, or download the Siddur at templeshalom.ca/video, and you'll have a PDF of our Siddur online. We're going to continue, I should say, page 130, Lechune Ramen.
Adonai, Nari To Shalom Aleichem, welcoming the Sabbath angels that guide us in this transition from the week into Shabbat, page 142, if you are following along. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Yasharet, Malachei הקדוש ברוך הוא בואכם לשלום מלאכי השלום מלאכי עליון ממלך מלאכי המלאכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ברכוני לשלום הקדוש ברוך הוא צאתכם לשלום מלכי השלום מלכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Now turn back to page 138 for Lecha Dodi, welcoming the Sabbath bride. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, v'ni Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, v'ni Shabbat nekabela. Let's try that again. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, v'ni Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, v'ni Shabbat nekabela. Shamor bezachor b'dibur echad, tishmi'anu el ameyuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, v'shemo tiferet v'litzila. Shabbat nekabela. Verse 2. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh v'machshava tchila, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Hitoreri, toreri, ki ba'orech kumi uri, uri uri shir daveri, kevod Adonai alayich nigla, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 6. Lo tevoshi velo tikalmi, ma tishtochachi u'ma tehmi, bach yachesu an yeyamdi, v'nivneta alim tzila, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. We rise, we're able to face the entrance in your space wherever you are as we turn to verse 9. Boi v'shalom, ateret bala, gam b'simcha ובצולה, בואי חלה, תוך אמוני, עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. Shabbat nekabela. Last time. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela.
It was just wonderful. You know, that section that Cantor Cohen just led us through is Kabbalat Shabbat. Kabbalah means to receive Shabbat. And sometimes the way to receive things is to make them as palatable and as attractive as possible. And music can do that. Music can transcend in ways that words never can. It can break through. And hopefully you were like me, your feet were tapping, your head was bobbing, and you were singing along. And then every now and then we're thrown something that's unfamiliar. And so Cantor Cohen, rightfully so, switched up parts of Lecha Dodi from our normal template and added verse 6 instead of verse 3. And so what does verse 6 say? Verse 6 says, don't despair. Verse 6 says, end the shame and the degradation and forget your sorrows and your quiet and your groans and embrace the possibility of blessing that comes with Shabbat. And so as we receive Shabbat, let's receive that idea of ending our sorrows and our worries and just being able to bob to the melodies and to enter into Shabbat with a sense of wholeness and holiness and even a sense of joy, of simcha. So we'll continue page 263, Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועל מה דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולם לעמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודשא בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו amen.
We'll continue page 264, the Baruch Hu, the call to worship.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Vaed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Can be seated, and we'll continue a blessing for evening as the sun will eventually set at some point. We can count on that. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim v'chochma poteach sha'arim u'vitvuna meshana itim u'machalif et hazmanim u'mesader et ha'kochavim b'mishrotehem barakia kirtzonam borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or u'ma'avir yom u'mevi layla u'mavdil bein yom u'bein layla Adonai tzavaot shemo el chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Page 266.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו וקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Middle of page 269, we worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all. Yet that oneness eludes our grasp as imperfection and evil abound. Before our eyes, there is a vision of perfection, of order and goodness. There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul. When will redemption come? When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves. Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High, and we learned then that God's presence redeems time and event. So we celebrate this power that makes for freedom. Michamocha, page 270.
Clapping. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neda b'kodesh, noratehi lo tosef ele, noratehi lo tosef ele. Malchutecha ra'u banecha, lokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze eliyanu ve'amru, ze eliyanu ve'ameru, Adonai
Long ago, I swore off public clapping, but I can do it when I'm muted, then it works. But otherwise, I just feel completely out of tune and out of sync. We'll continue with a version of Hashkivenu, page 271.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu leshalom, Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu leshalom.
I just love that version. Thank you so much for that. In a moment, we'll sing Vishamru, and we'll be reminded of our obligations to keep and observe the Shabbos, to make for ourselves sacred time. I'm down here, as I said, in Northern California, in the San Francisco Bay Area. We just had Shabbos dinner with my parents and my brother and my sister and their spouses and some of their children that are still around. Others are away at camp, and Sharon and I. And to make Shabbos, you know, is not just to not turn on lights and to not drive and all the things that we've perhaps practiced in our own lives or read about in the lives of others and more traditional, but to make Shabbos is to make a holy space, is to separate and elevate. And if that means to gather the loved ones that you can around you and to have a special meal or a special conversation or a special walk, then that's Shabbos. It may not be what is written in Torah, but it certainly is the intention behind Torah. And so how you keep and protect your Shabbos, and if you haven't done it yet, you've still got all that time tomorrow to carve out some time to make Zman Kodesh, to make holy time. We'll continue Vishamru, page 272.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. We'll continue with the Amidah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Can be seated. We'll continue page 277, down in the middle of the page.
קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך שרנו, בטובך ושמחנו בישועתך. קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך
79.
with Ritzay. Ritzay Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel
Cantor Cohen, what are you grateful for this Shabbos?
I am incredibly grateful for a bed. My stuff was just recently delivered, and we've been sleeping on air mattresses and tents and various other people's spaces, and we have our own space with a bed, and I'm so excited to sleep in it tonight.
That is worthy of blessing for sure. I'm of course grateful to be with my family and that my kids are at camp and that everyone so far is enjoying and is healthy. And I'm sure all of you out there, you have your own blessings. And our tradition reminds us at this moment in our service to concentrate on the blessings, to concentrate on the joys in our life, to make a gratitude list, if you would, in our hearts and in our prayers to say thank you to God or to whomever and to whatever we attribute those blessings. It could be the movers, to whomever and whatever we attribute the blessings in our life, to not just go through as though they just appeared, but to recognize the source of those blessings and to say thank you. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands, we offer praise. For the desire in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful. For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the source of being. We'll continue now with the Al Kulam, page 281.
Ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam, yitbarach ve'yitromam, yitbarach ve'yitromam, shimcha malkeinu tamid le'olam va'ed, ve'chol ha'chayim יודו חסלה ויהללו את שמך באמת האל ישועתנו ועזרתנו עזרתנו סלע ועל ועל כולם יתברך ויתרומם, יתברך ויתרומם, שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה להודות.
Page 282, we sing a song and offer a prayer of peace. Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
The first time I ever led a service was a teenager in Mugwanago, Wisconsin, at a BBYO summer program, and I had to sing that song in a gym with terrible acoustics, which didn't help. You did it much better than I did. But it takes me back to camp and that spiritual place that we often can find in the outdoors. And it was a tradition at my summer camp that when we came to the silent prayer, Tefillah Shebelev, the silent prayer of the heart, that we would send all the campers, and I was among them, out into the quad, out into the field to go find your tree, your fence post, your bush, your spot on the grass, to have that quiet moment of solitude and prayer. And though maybe we can't do that right now as you're looking into the screen, I want to invite you to make time to do that later this evening, after the service is over, to not just go right to whatever the next thing is, but to go outside and to have that quiet moment of contemplation. But we'll take some of that now, a moment of silent prayer.
Come back together on page 285 with Oseh Shalom, prayer for peace. Oseh Shalom bimroma
Dog barking one moment.
Well, we are going to prepare for Misha Berach.
To forget that we're doing this from our homes. We last week I had the opportunity before I headed down here to go to the Louis Breyer for the first time in a long time. As did Rabbi Brown, and Cantor Cohen joined me for one of the visits to see some of our temple members who are residents there, who had not been visited by anybody except for family just recently even, and certainly not by clergy as we would normally make visits until, oh, Mitzi's back. And so we'll continue now as we offer Misha Berach.
On page 371, please join us. Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
As we just sang that prayer for healing, we offer it for Basil Kalner, Sylvia Pitch, David Goldstein, Alan Feldman, Marlene Brenner, Howard Diamond, Hamish Tucker, Brian Moole, Alex Kravitsky, Pam Otum, Ari Goldman, Judy Steiner Losberg, Burns Simpson, Karen Bernstein, Haya Sahava Bat Yehuda Valea, Alana James, Dr. Dimitri Zanozin, Lynn Zabo, Shana Stawicki, Elliot Pohl, Sanford Cohen, Jean Angus, Sarah Bat Avraham Basara, Igor Ilisov, Ed Ozer, David Shlomo Gorny, Andrea Jarzibak, and Neil Tapley, as well as those whose names you've brought into this service and you carry in your hearts. May God grant each and all of them a refuah shlema, complete recovery. Just as the cantor sang a refuata nefesh, a renewal of their soul, refuata guf, a renewal of their body. And may we do our part to bring about healing in their lives and healing in our world. And we can all say, Amen. Cantor Cohen, you can turn off your camera for a moment and take a break. I'm going to share some announcements and then a few words of Torah with the congregation. A reminder that services tomorrow morning, well, first of all, we have Torah study tomorrow morning online at 8:30. And services also tomorrow morning are again online at 10 a.m. It'll be the last service where Jillian Glass, our Gabbai, one of our Gabbaim, is going to be our Gabbai for the service before she heads to Arizona to assume her teaching position on faculty down there at the university. And so we're honored to not only have Jillian be our Gabbai tomorrow morning, but also to give the drash tomorrow morning as well. So I hope you'll join us for that, and we can say a tremendous thank you to Jillian as our Gabbai and to all of our Gabbaim for the role that they play in helping to make our services function so well and to create moments of holiness and sacred time. A reminder that this week there is a seniors lunch. I mentioned it, but it's sold out, which is fantastic and wonderful. That's on Thursday, July 15th. We expanded it and expanded it till we ran out of room in the tent, but there will be others. So I hope that you'll join us in the future for our senior lunches and concerts and conversations. Of course, Morning Minyan is Monday and Wednesday at 7:45 a.m. And I don't think there's, I believe there might be Talmud study next week because Rabbi Brown is back. So Tuesday, Talmud study at 11 o'clock. I hope you can join us for that. Next Friday, July 16th, is Shabbat on the beach. So no services at the synagogue, but services are in person, and they are at Spanish Banks Beach, as we've done for many, many years. You'll find us under the big tree. There'll be hopefully lots of people socially distanced enough. Everybody on their own picnic blanket and chairs. Bring your own meal. We can't share desserts like we used to just yet, but bring your own dinner and dessert. And Rabbi Brown and Cantor Cohen will be there to lead the service that'll begin right around 7 o'clock or so. And then Saturday morning, the 17th services are back in the synagogue in the sanctuary. Also tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. at the synagogue in the tent and outside on the playground is our Tot Shabbat program. So I hope that you can join us for all of those. So Shabbat Shalom. It's really a pleasure to be able to be with you from here this morning, this evening, I should say, from my hometown where I grew up in Foster City, California, which is, you fly over it when you land at San Francisco Airport. So this morning, around 9:30 or so, I hugged my parents for the first time in 19 months. I have driven down to California. We had driven down to California after dropping our children at Jewish summer camp in Washington State, as I mentioned earlier. And one of the many advantages of being a dual citizen, as I've discovered, is that we can drive across the US border, only now really, on our US passports and return to Canada in a few weeks on our Canadian passports. My parents live in the San Francisco Bay Area and Sharon's in Los Angeles. We'll hopefully, God willing, be able to see them next Shabbos and spend that time with their community and congregation. I've known for weeks that my sermon tonight, delivered as it is from my parents' guest bedroom, would be about that first hug. I have thought of nothing else for more than a month. What I didn't know was how it would feel and what I would say about it after it happened. So these are those thoughts. King Solomon, the wisest of all men or all people in Torah, long ago taught us in the book of Ecclesiastes and Kohelet, which the Birds set to music in 1960s, that there is a time to embrace and a time to cease from embracing. The sequence of that is a significant one. There may be good causes at times to cease from embracing, and surely a plague of COVID-19 is one of them. But we must never forget that human contact is an ideal which for many has tragically been all too often unattainable during this past year and a half of the pandemic. Among the many images that will stay with me probably the rest of my life as I reflect and hopefully, God willing, eventually retell this story of this pandemic to my own grandchildren one day, will be those of grandparents waving to their children and their grandchildren from behind glass windows in long-term care facilities or through patio doors. We all saw those images. They each desperately wanted to hold each other, to wrap them in their arms and to let the other know they love, they care, it will be okay. But they could not. Glass separated us. A virus endangered us, and so we waved or we talked. But painfully, they could not, we could not touch, and something profound is unattainable and unavailable to be fully expressed without that touch, without that embrace. No matter how often I saw my parents on Zoom, nothing can replace the physical connection of a hug. I was reminded of that this morning so clearly. Rabbi Yosef Jacobson is a world-renowned scholar of Kabbalah, of Jewish mysticism, and I turned to his writings this week to try to understand why a hug is more powerful than words, or a kiss, or a longing look into the eyes of another. In teaching about the spirituality of a hug, he explains that there are 4 universally accepted forms of expressing love to another human being. The first is through words of affection, those 3 simple but powerful words, I love you. When uttered sincerely, they may have a transforming impact on a person's life. Words have always served as the basic tools for expressing our inner emotive experiences, and I love you are 3 very powerful ones. A second, maybe more powerful expression of love is, of course, a kiss. A genuine kiss contains an extraordinary energy and serves as the medium for communicating a deeply intense feeling that may not be grasped in words. Words can say, I love you, while a kiss declares, I love you more than words are able to say. A third, perhaps even more powerful expression of love comes in the form of a gaze. Two people in love can gaze at each other for long periods of time across a room without uttering a sound. To reference another 60s folk band, Simon and Garfunkel, the sound of silence, when accompanied with a gaze, is sometimes louder than all the I love yous shouted from the rooftops. Eyes carry within them deep secrets of the soul. That's why most people feel uncomfortable when someone stares them in the eyes for more than just a few seconds. There is something of your soul that you can communicate to another human being exclusively through your eyes. I think, however, that this is actually lost or it's greatly diminished via Zoom. Physical proximity is also a key component to that particular love communication of a longing gaze. The fourth universally accepted method of expressing love is by means of an embrace, a hug. A hug demonstrates a solid and profound bond existing between two people embracing each other. Now, when asked which of these forms do children cherish most, children, if they can articulate it, will express and say that they enjoy being spoken to. They enjoy being spoken to, not at. And they certainly take pleasure from being kissed and being looked upon with tender affection. Yet more than anything, most children, especially infants, and in my experience, adults as well, cherish being hugged more than anything else. It supersedes the previous words, a kiss or a longing gaze. What's the secret of the hug? What is its power? Now, it may surprise you, or maybe not, but our rabbis have thought and written deeply about the power of a hug. In fact, no less a rabbi than the great Rabbi Isaac Luria, also known as the Ari, one of the great scholars of Kabbalah from mid-16th century Svat, explains how the physical mechanics of a hug set it apart from all other forms of love communication. Part of Kabbalah, of course, is finding hidden meaning in words and in constructs that are right in front of us. And this teaching from that spiritual lens is right in front of us. It's in our hands. Well, really, it's in our arms. So take a moment and look at your arm for a moment, or you can look at mine if you want. It is, of course, with our arms and then our whole bodies that we embrace another person. For the Ari, there are three dimensions of an arm's embrace, and each encompasses three distinct parts of the body being embraced. And this is his Kabbalistic interpretation of that. When you embrace another person, the highest part of the arm, between the shoulder and the elbow, encompasses the entire side of the one being embraced, of being hugged. The middle part of a person's arm, the forearm, expands over the entire width to embrace the person's back. And finally, the palm and the fingers extend even further and cover a small part of the face of the embraced one, a handbreadth of the face. That's where it comes from. Lastly, and this is my own chidush on the Ari's teaching, the body comes into the mix to complete the embrace, to fully encircle the other, and when done in coordination with the intended recipient of your hug, two bodies combine in what philosopher Martin Buber would describe an I-thou moment, when two separate entities become something new and whole, and even holy, when they become one. My hug with my parents was like that. Something that has not existed for 19 months was created in that moment. It wasn't the same as hugs pre-pandemic. It carried with it nearly 2 years of yearning and angst and worry and trauma and unrequited affection. It was filled with tears and with joy and with pain, and it was overflowing with love. I am painfully aware that I am among the lucky ones. For many, even after 19 months, that hug is still elusive. It's still some time off away in the distance, if at all. For some, more than we can even imagine, that hug will never come. They lost loved ones to this virus, or having lost their parents before COVID emerged, they did not have them to go through it with them. and still others alone and lonely and isolated because of the pandemic or in spite of the pandemic, have no one to hug or to hug them back. And my heart, it truly breaks for all who have not or will not experience what I was so fortunate to feel this morning as my parents held me in their arms and I held them in mine. I understand that pain now better than I did the last 19 months when I felt it myself. Ecclesiastes Kohelet teaches there is a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to laugh and a time to cry, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Thank God the deaths from this virus are declining. There were no COVID-related deaths in BC today. We have shed many tears for all that we have been through these many months. And we have, as Jews, done what we always do with resilience from generations. We've found moments of laughter and joy in the midst of the oi, in the midst of the sorry. The time to embrace is here or it's coming soon. Embrace it. Give extra hugs to those who surround you. Embrace this power and much needed communication with our loved ones. Hold on to it. Hold on to them like your life depends on it. Because as I learned today, in so many ways, it does. Kenny Hiratzon, may it be God's will. Amen.
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 So please, if you know it, feel free to join me after that beautiful message. Thank you, Rabbi Dan. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven.
That was just perfect. I texted Cantor Cohen like an hour before the service when I had finished the sermon because I didn't know what I was going to say. I said, I'm using this verse. Do you have a song? And she pulled that right out of her toolbox. Thank you so much for that. The perfect Nechemta. We're going to continue page 586. We'll rise if you're able for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבותה אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We continue now as our thoughts turn to loved ones who are not with us, but whose presence is felt particularly at this time of memory, as we recall them for blessing. A word before Kadisha Tom, the mourner's Kaddish. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty, but soon it fades. Its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, and in light we are seen. The flames dance, and our lives are full. But as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen, yet we do not despair. For we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in that eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. On this Shabbat, we recall those who died during this past week, whose families are in the midst of Shiva and Shloshim. As I read the name of your loved one, if you're able to rise in your home, we invite you to do so in their memory. Marcelo Glaubach, Stanley Jacobs, Marjo Lowe. And those for whom the Yortzeit, the anniversary of the death of your loved ones on this Shabbat, if you too could rise and remain standing in their memory. Harold Ames, Esther Auerbach, Jonathan Bass, Ruth Baum, David Cassier, Tamara Chiswick, Abraham Cohen, Minnie Cohen, Charles Cooper, Hannah Dar, George Davidon, Isaac DeVries, Sylvia Dozer, Jonathan Feinberg, Minnie Filer, Dick Fratkin, Yaakov Frankel, Eva Goldberg, Mary Greenberg, Benjamin Iliani, Irene Israel, Ada Callie, Chatsy Kanovitsky, Abraham Kasson, Hiram Katz-Nelson, Eddie Krowitz, Freema Leventhal, Phyllis Levitt, Edith Luster, Marvin Irving Pochchin, Saul Rosenbaum, Mildred Simon, Rose Soner, William Zaks, Louis Zagan. If there are others who have names for Yortzeit, I invite you to call them out loud in your homes to give voice to their memory as we recall all of those who've died in defense of freedom and justice, victims of terror in this land, the land of Israel, and around the world. And those who died in the Shoah and the Holocaust that have no family left to remember them, we recall them for blessing as well as we join together. Kadisha Tom, page 598. Please rise. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad yivrach yerutev yamlich malchuteh, v'chayachon of yomechon of chayedachol beit Yisrael, v'agala uvizman karim, v'yimaru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulamei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh. Vit adar, vit alev, vit alal, shemei kudisha brichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, daminon be'oma, v'yimaru amen. Yehei shlamo rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael, Yimaru. Amen. Ose shalom b'momav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel. Yimaru. Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved. And we say together, Amen. Cantor Cohen, this has been a real joy. Thank you so much.
For me as well.
Good. We get to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
and on and on. But let's conclude our service with the closing song, page 625, Adon Olam.
Adon Olam asher malach beterem kol yetzir nivra leit nasa bechefzo kol azai melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora והוא היה, והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו, להחמירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי, וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בית שרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי, בית ישן והעירה, ועם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא יירא.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And Cantor Cohen, Ira tells me that your dad is watching on YouTube and he's in the chat.
Sunnyvale, very close to where you are.
Yeah, I go down and visit. So I guess call your parents.
Hi, parents.
And thank you all for joining us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Torah study at 8:30. Services begin at 10 a.m. Remember, it's Jillian Glass's last Shabbos with us as our Gabbai. So let's show up as she's just shown up for us. Shabbat Shalom, Cantor Cohen, and to Kylan and to everyone back in Vancouver. Stay cool. I guess it's getting hotter up there. It's hot down here too. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.